Okay. Shireen, what about you?
Hi, I'm Shireen. I'm in 10th grade, 15 years old, and I play tennis. Yeah,
Awesome. How was your spring break, guys?
it was
Was
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Wait, did we lose Alan? Uh-oh. Did we lose Alan? Let's see. No, he's here. Oh, he's coming back. All right. I think Shireen, you might have to repeat yourself.
I did a Shilpa.
You did it. I know.
I disappeared. I hit the wrong button.
I know. Okay.
As you get older.
So so Shireen was just introducing herself. And Shireen, you live in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, Farmington, Connecticut.
Awesome. And then Meher is her brother. I think you've met the two of them, right? Alan, have you met them before?
I don't, Shireen, who are you? Do I know your parents?
I don't know, but their names are like Shailaja, Miridoda, you know.
Well, we'll skip that. But how old are you now? 14?
15.
15. And where's Farmington?
Yeah. It's in Connecticut. It's like near Hartford.
Okay. And I don't know if we've met, but that's all right. We probably met a couple lifetimes ago. Here.
And then we have Meher.
Who's on silence.
Hi, I'm Meher. I'm 10 years old and I'm in 6th grade and I play soccer.
Uh-huh.
I also have to say, those two are really good musicians as well.
Are they?
Yeah, Shireen. Shireen used to play the flute. I think now she plays the guitar, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Meher, what do you play?
I play the trumpet.
Ooh, nice.
Yes.
So guys, it's just a really, we're just really small today. So please do keep your videos on. So it's a very intimate session. Is Karen going to be joining us on video today?
I could ask her, or you just,
Yeah.
Karen,
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
as long as you're here. What they want, Shilpa like to see your face. I don't know what she said. She's in the other room. I'm in the kitchen and she's in the computer room.
No worries. Okay. Not a problem at all.
We'll try and talk her into it.
Okay, no worries. If she wants to join in a bit, that's fine. And I'm sorry, guys. I am such a Android person that I'm having some issues with not issues, but I'm learning how to do things on an iPad. But okay, I think now I can share my screen. Yay, I figured it out.
Really?
Okay, so all right, now we can say the prayers. So there's 3 of us here, 3 of the kids. If you guys want to start with the Parvardigar prayer, Shireen, would you like to do it, or Meher? Doesn't matter.
Mary, you want to do it?
Oh, you can do it.
Okay. O Parvardigar, the preserver and protector of all. You are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are indivisible, and none can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, and you are in everything. And you're also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You're in the firmament and in the depths. You're the manifest and unmanifest on all planes and beyond all planes. You're in the 3 worlds and also beyond the 3 worlds. You're imperceptible and independent. You're the creator, the Lord of lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You're omnipotent and omnipresent. You're knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You're the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, the knower of the past, the present, and the future, and your knowledge itself. You are all merciful, eternally benevolent. You are the soul of souls and the one with infinite attributes. You're the trinity of truth, knowledge, and bliss. You're the source of truth, the ocean of love. You're the ancient one, the highest of the high. You're Prabhu and Parameshwar. You are the beyond God and the beyond God also. You are Parabrahma, Allah, Ilahi, Yazdan, Ahura Mazda, and God the Beloved. Your name Dizad, the only one worthy of worship.
Thank you, Shireen. All right. Who wants to do the prayer of repentance? So, do you want to give it a shot?
Yeah. We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every for every thought that was false, unjust, or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought and for every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most especially also we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive us for our constant failures to think and speak and act according to your will.
Thank you. All right, Meher, you got the last one.
Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and still yet more, till we become the worthy of union with you. And help us all to fast the Baba's Dhamma till the very end. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
All right, thank you. Okay, so guys, we have Alan here, and he is from California along with his wife Karen. And Alan, we're really excited to have both of you here, and we'd love to hear stories about yourself and how you guys came to Baba. And I think both of you had quite a few years with the Mandali, right? So we would, the floor is yours. And in between, I might just interrupt a little bit, just if we have any questions or stuff like that. But otherwise, it's an open forum, and I'm really, really happy to have you both here. And it's great to see you. It's been a long time.
Well, I'm really happy to be here, and I'd like to see Meher. He kind of disappeared here at this point.
Yeah, Meher, turn on your video, sweetheart, because it's a small.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Well,
my camera just stopped.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's always a technological problem in life, isn't there? But this is quite a miracle that we could even do this. When I was a child, 100,000 years ago, we had phones that were these big clunky things, and you had to dial them like this. And if one of the numbers slipped out of your finger, you had to start over. The toughest ones were 9 and 0 because they were at the bottom. So if you went this and your hand was slippery, you had to start over. So now we have iPhones, we have all this technology. So you people will be amazed when you're older, and you won't believe that we had these tech.
This phone.
Okay.
This isn't related to Meher Baba.
This is not related, well, except the sense that Meher Baba does everything. Now, when we moved into this house in 1987, on the wall was a phone. You're going to get a kick out of this. My grandkids really like to play with this. And this was on the wall. Here was the wall, and it was plugged in like this. And you took it off the wall, and the cord it's about 1.5 feet, and you could stretch it a little bit. So if someone called you, are you ready for this? You had to stand there with the phone to your ear like this, and you could only stretch about a couple of feet. And it was really bad because there was only one phone in the house. Can you believe this? If my sister, when I was growing up, if my sister got a phone call and she was a teenage girl, she'd be on for all night. So we'd have to boot her off because nobody else could get on the phone, and nobody could call us. Can you believe that? I know.
Until we had call waiting.
Then we got call, yeah. Then we got call waiting, but it was after I was a child. So it was always like, get off the phone. You're on the phone. And then there'd be a lot of yelling and no. So it was very funny. But so in a way, you could see the technology is quite remarkable. You're all sitting here seeing me 3,000 miles away. And yesterday, I talked to my friend in Pune, and VJ, did you see VJ was here earlier? He's in Pune. And I talked to my friend who's from Hyderabad originally, Ram Murray, and we were on WhatsApp. You know WhatsApp? So yeah, when Baba was born in 1894, all this technology hardly existed. We didn't have automobiles. We didn't even have virtually toilets. Can you imagine that? And since Baba was born, not only has the population expanded dramatically, but furthermore, all the technologies expanded. Some of the great minds have come from all over the universe to see Baba, to be with Baba. And that's why we've had all these medicines and technology and industry like automobiles and trains and planes, all this stuff. How else would we get to India without a plane? If we took a boat, it would take months. Remember in the 30s when Baba would come to the United States or to Europe, you would have to take a boat and it took forever. And you know who Mara was, Baba's close woman disciple? She didn't like the boats very much, and she used to get seasick. And if you've ever been on a boat, it's not good to get seasick. She was sick the entire trip to Europe. So it's very, very humbling experience. So now we have airplanes. And even with all their problems, Baba's made it easy for us to get across the country and across the world. Have you all been to Myrtle Beach?
Mhm.
Okay. Have you all been to India? Obviously, yeah, because I met you there. I don't know about Mayor. I don't know what he's. But I mean, think about it. You could be in India in about a day, halfway around the world in one day. So this is what Baba has done to allow people to communicate with each other physically. Quite remarkable.
Alan, when you guys went to India, the first time, how long did it take you? What year was that?
Yes. When I went to India the first time, it was 1973. And I'll tell you what the plane ride was. Okay. Now, mind you, California is further than the East Coast. You're 3,000 miles closer. India is 12,000 miles away. All right. That's halfway around the world. So whether we go over the Atlantic or we go over the Pacific, and I've done both, you end up having to go basically 12,000 miles, essentially. I took Air India, and it was really interesting. First, I stopped in London. I might have gone to New York first, but I don't remember that. And then we went to Paris in France. There's no test here, but may or may be tested on this. We'll see later. Then I went to Rome. So we're basically going like 500 or 1,000 miles. And then we went to a country called Kuwait, which is in the Middle East. Now, this is interesting. Right before I went to India in November 1973, there was a war in the Middle East. And there was an oil embargo that the Arab countries had set up. And it was very strict. So listen to this. We had to get off the airplane in Kuwait, and all the soldiers were there with guns. It was very, very frightening. And we were there in this big room, all the passengers in the plane, 100 had to get off. And then we flew to Bombay then. It was Bombay. I had never been to India, so I didn't know what it looked like or smelled like or was. And the airport that's in Mumbai now was not the airport that they had in Bombay. That airport was like a small airport. And when you got out of the plane, you smelled India. And you saw people were living on almost on the tarmac. And I see, where did I go? I went to a woman named Nordice's house, and she put us up overnight. And then I took a train to Pune. You all know where Pune is? That's where Baba was born. And I stayed at a hotel. And Baba's brother Jal came. He was very funny. He was one of the funniest people ever. And he took me around Pune and showed me all the places. He showed me where he grew up and Baba grew up, and where Baba hit his head. Have you ever been to Baba's house? There's a back room where Baba lived, and there's a stone there, and Baba hit his head on the stone. Do you see that? And Baba knocked pretty much all his teeth out doing that. He did it for a long time. And he had a scar on his head the rest of his life from that. Anyway, then I took a taxi to Ahmednagar with a couple other people. It was called a paper taxi. Listen to this. The taxi papers from Pune to Ahmednagar to Mehrabad. And so we were able to catch that taxi, two other people and myself. And we went to the trust. The trust compound is, have you been to the trust? And we signed in. It was different than it is now. Now you have the NPR. In those days, you had to find your own place to stay. How's that for an idea? There was little hotels which were very funky with Westerners we're not used to. We had to get our own food. We weren't used to Indian food, spicy and all that. The bathroom facilities were different, et cetera, et cetera. And we had to get our own way out to Mehrabad and to Merazad. They didn't have buses or cars to take us. We had to take, are you ready? You've seen the rickshaws, those little putty putt rickshaws? And we would take these rickshaws, two of us, and Ahmednagar was much smaller in those days. And they didn't even have hardly any buses or cars. They had trucks, you know, like government trucks or industry trucks. But people had a lot of motor scooters. There weren't hardly any motorcycles. Can you believe that? Now people have cars like crazy. So we would take these rickshaws that go at what, 2 miles an hour. We would take them out to Mehrabad. It would take an hour to, yeah, no, not even that. No, that's a nice one. The Indian rickshaw. See if you can get that one up.
No, yeah, I think these are pretty
And
nice.
those are nice. That's way nicer. Yeah.
I'll look it up for you.
But look like that. And we had to keep the sides down because there was so much dust. No, we didn't take
Yep.
those. Those are like tongas almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we would go out to Mehrabad and we met the Mandali. Now, there were certain Mandali that lived out there. There was a man named Padre. Padre was in charge, and he was soft-hearted, but he was tough. He had been with Baba since the early 20s. Now, this is over 50 years at that point. He had been with Baba. By the way, I have been with Baba since 1969. So it's 53 years in August. And I heard about him in 1968. So it's going on 54 years. But anyway, that doesn't make me better than you people, which you probably went Baba way before I was. But we went out to Mehrabad. There's Padre, exactly. And we would go up. Have you been to the Samadhi? Okay, so everybody's been to the Samadhi. You go up you got to walk up the hill. And there weren't as many trees in those days. It was way different. And there was a woman living up there that Baba placed up there to live for decades. And her name was Mansari. Let's see if she'll forget Mansari. And she was little. Shireen, how tall are you?
5'6".
Oh, you're taller than I am. Okay, Mayhair, how tall are you?
4'10".
Okay, Mansouri was shorter than you were. She weighed about 85 pounds on a heavy day. Look at her. And she smiled all the time. And she had a bunch of dogs that ran around, and she would serve us cookies and tea. You see a little bit further on is where she lived. If you've been to Upper Maribod, you've probably been to her place. It's right across from the tin shed, you know, the tin shed. And we used to eat lunch there at the tin shed. Yeah. So Mayor, you're tall as Mansouri was, and she was shrinking, and you're getting taller. And Shireen is taller than I am, for God's sakes. I used to be taller than she was. Now I'm shrinking. I don't think I'll make Mansouri size. Any event, we would spend all day there and really have not a lot to do except listen to stories from people. People would tell how they came to Baba and that kind of thing. And we would tell stories, and Mansouri would tell stories. And there were other Mandali there too. There was a man named Nanakar was there. And there was a mosque down below. You've seen the Mosque Muhammad? Have you seen a picture of the Mosque Muhammad? He lived at Maribod since the late 30s till the time he died about 15 years ago, I guess. Anyway, and there was a man named Sidhu who was in charge of him. And he was quite a jolly fellow. He didn't speak too much English. Here's Muhammad. Yeah. And he was bent over for the most part. And it was very interesting since there aren't that many mosques in America, to say the least, since none, as far as we know. And so we would visit Muhammad, and Padre would translate what Muhammad was saying. It was in Marathi. Does anyone speak Marathi? No? Okay, I don't speak it Marathi either. Anyway, that was a day at Maribod. So then you would have to take a rickshaw back. The rickshaw drivers would stay there. Are you ready? All day. Now, some of the people hired rented bicycles. Okay. Does everybody have a bicycle? Okay. Mayor, how many speeds do you have on your bike? Speeds.
At 6.
Okay, well, most American bikes are 10 speed. So you could go up a steep hill, you know, and you shift in the gears. You know how many speeds there were in an Indian bike in those days? 1. Take it or leave it. So we would rent the bike and we would bike out to Maribod, and it would take like as long as the rickshaw. So if it rained or it was hot or it was cold or whatever, you were biking, and it sometimes was level and sometimes was not, up and down, 1 speed. So we tended to go in packs, so for safety reasons. Now listen to this. You've all been to Maribod? You know, in Ahmednagar is that big circle. When you get to Ahmednagar, that big circle. Well, in those days, in 1973, from the circle to Maribod, which is a few miles, maybe 5 or so, hardly anybody lived. Now it's bumper to bumper people. The army base was still there, but we would bike and not see anybody for half an hour at a time. There'd be maybe one person or one family living in a hut or something like that. Now, some days we went to Marizad. You've all been to Marizad, where Baba lived? You've been to his house and all that. You've been to Mandali Hall, and you bowed to the chair in Baba's in Mandali Hall, and you bowed at Baba's bed, right? We've all done that. We also had to take a rickshaw, and we also had to take a bike. And that's hillier than it is going to Maribod, as I recall. So it's quite uphill. So people would get to Marizad or Maribod really sweaty. We would get there, we'd have a hat on. We'd have to have scarves because of all the dust, you know. And even though there weren't that many cars, we'd be all sweaty. So it would take us a while to calm down, you know, your body to kind of like calm down. And at Marizad, the Mandali were there, you know, Eritz was there, and Mara was there. There you go. And Monty could be there, and Dr. Goer was there, and Katie was there, and whoever was there, Arnavas was there. It depended. People would come and go, and it was quite enjoyable. And you could spend, again, all day, and you would eat lunch there. And you had to get your own lunch. People brought their own lunches. So people were eating different things they weren't used to. People were getting sick. I'll just be honest with you. Our tummies, American tummies, were not used to Indian food and not used to the spices or the water, and whatever else under the sun. So there was a lot of sickness in those days. And sadly, we all got sick, but it was a great time.
Alan, did you guys have to boil the water?
I don't recall boiling the water, but I think the Mandali did everything they could to make us less sick, if that's a word. Now, if you were out there, you could go to Mehrabad for 4 days or 5, I think it was 4. And there were, Karen saying 4 from the other room. And there were barracks there, which are now used as offices. And there were toilet facilities out there too, and we could bathe and use the toilet, unless there was a snake or a scorpion or something like that, then you might want to back off. But we would sleep in these barracks, and then we would eat in one of these offices, which was a kitchen in those days. Now it's an office. And Padre would yell at us if we wasted a kernel of rice. He would talk like this. He was kind of bent over, and he had us use this finger here, okay? See this finger, this pointy finger of his right hand, and it was broken like this. So it was kind of like this. He would put it right up in your nose, and he'd say, "Listen, mister." And he would talk like, and every word would end with, "Listen, mister." And when they go like that, and put it right on your nose, it was quite intimidating if you got intimidated. And a lot of the women were quite frightened by him, and some of the men as well. I thought he was quite a character. "Don't you not eat all your rice. I don't want to see any food left." And if you wasted water, my God, we were allowed to take a bath every 2 days or something like that. At the NPR now you could take a bath, but people are a little wild with their water. Every time I take a bath at the NPR, I do it bucket wise. I just pour a cup over my, because you know what's happening? I hear Padre's voice in my head. "Listen, mister." And he's got his finger in my nose saying, "You're wasting water." No matter what I did, I was wasting water. We always wasted water from his point of view, because Mehrabad, as you might know or not know, when they got there, was bone dry. And there's lots of stories of how they couldn't find any water and they had to abandon Mehrabad. But then Baba would tell them to dig a well. And as you get older, you'll read some of these stories. And there are wonderful stories about, well, just dig another 5 feet, dig another 10 feet. And then they would find water, because without water, you can't possibly live. Not only for bathing, but for cooking and feeding the animals and, what have you. It's impossible to live without food and water. And the villagers in Arangown, the village right next to Mehrabad, you've seen those folks, a lot of them work at the NPR. They would come to Baba because they had no water either, and he would grant the requests. So that was Padre. He was quite remarkable as a human being, and very dear to my heart, and taught me and all of us a lot. And also Nanakir welcomed you up at the Samadhi. When you came to the Samadhi, there was Nanakir, if he was on duty, which he usually was, and he would say, "Welcome home," and he would hug you. He would hug you for minutes. You couldn't break his embrace. So if you're not a hugger, you came to the wrong person. And this guy liked the hug. And he was the slowest person I ever met. It would take him about a half an hour just to walk down the hill from the Samadhi down to Lower Mehrabad. The ordinary person would take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He would walk really slowly. There he was. Yeah, that was Nanakir. He always smiled. And so he would always welcome us home. And that was Nanakir. He did it to the
Alan,
end of his days.
sorry to interrupt you. Quick question on Nana Care. How long was he with Baba? Because we don't really, I mean, he's not like you know, we hear Irch and Baoji and all, but like Nana Care.
That's a great, you know where to find out this information?
Lord Mayor.
Tony Zoyce, no,
Okay.
well, that too, but Tony Zoyce has a great website for information called Mayor Baba Travels.
Mhm.
And he's included most of the Mandali, and he is also included, due to his great wisdom, Alan and Karen Talbot there too. We have our own page, which he's going to add to this. He's going to add this to that page too when I tell him. But he has web pages for all the Mandali. So if you could find Mayor Baba Travel for Nanakir, my guess is he came in the late 30s, and I can't remember, but he was with Baba quite a while when we first met him. When I first went to India, it was in November of 1973, and there was lots of people there. I want to tell you that people my age were not working very hard in those days, unlike your age. They weren't yet finishing school and things like that. But I went for 2 weeks, my first trip, and I was very fortunate. I met lots and lots of people, some of whom remain my friends 48 years later. Can you believe that? Some of those people, and I remember them still. Some of them I've lived with, and some of them have passed on, and some of them I've refound. And so the Baba world is vast. It's all over the world, not only US, not only India, but Europe, Australia. And so we have friends, and you will have friends, and you have friends from all over the world, unlike most people. You know, what's very strange is most people just know their family or their neighbors or their people in school or at work, or people if they go to a church or some kind of group like that. But Baba people know people all over the world. And so we get to know not only them, but their families. Listen to the story that happened just today. I got a phone call, and it was from the area code of Philadelphia, where I grew up. Now, normally it would look like a spam phone call, but I thought maybe it's a family member or something like that. So I called back, and it was an Indian woman living right near us, and her parents are visiting her from Hyderabad. Who's from Hyderabad?
We all are.
All right, everyone's from Hyderabad, the super race. So her name, she was not a Baba lover, but her father was. And I found out her dad's in early 70s, and they're here for about a month. And they wanted to see if we could do something. I don't know where they got my name actually, but I gave them the name of we have a center in our area, a Baba Center. And on Tuesday, I've set them up, I had them call our office manager, and he's going to go over there to meet this woman, listen to this, who met Baba in 1956 at the earliest. Her name is Sandra Alvarado, and her mom and dad met Baba in the 50s. Her father was, you know what a merchant marine is? It's somebody who goes out on a boat, and that's how I met. His name was Herman Alvarado, and he would see Baba all the time. Baba gave him a carte blanche, which means free reign, anytime he was in Bombay to come and visit Baba. So he would visit Baba quite often, and you'll see him and his wife Elena, now they're both gone, in the movies, but they were old friends of ours. They live out here in Walnut Creek area. They lived in Walnut Creek, they both passed away now. So these people will get to see, if it all works out, Sandra, and she's been knowing about Baba for 65, 70 years. Can you believe that? So they're very blessed. And maybe the daughter who's Shilpa's age, more or less. I don't know what your age is, but she was 44, and you're probably younger than that. And but a young person, that kind of age, and maybe she'll become a Baba lover. She doesn't live more than 20 minutes, a half hour from our house here. We live in the San Francisco area.
So Alan, I'm just going to ask the kids, do you guys have any questions so far? How do you guys like the stories? I mean, I think it's quite cool. Alan, I have a question for you. How did you hear about Baba? And even Karen, actually, because it'll be nice to hear both sides of your stories.
Now, the fact is Karen and I were in Australia in 2005 at Mayor House where Baba stayed. And we told our stories full length at that time. So if you want to YouTube that, you would YouTube Alan and Karen Talbot Mayor House, and you could hear that story. But I'll give you the short version. The short version is, I was born in 1946, about 2 million years ago. And I graduated college in 1968, a little less. And while I was at Berkeley, I'm going to tell you the good parts. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm okay. So when I was in Berkeley, many of my friends I went to Penn State, and many of them came out, and we made friends with this man named Jonathan Willis. He was a student at Berkeley. Now this is in the summer of '68, in July, and so we ended up hanging out at his house. Most of the students go home for the summer, but he stayed on. And in those days, people would have pictures on the wall and writings on the wall. It would ruin basically the walls of their landlord. But on the wall, he had these sayings of this man, Mayor Baba. And I said, who is this person? Because I liked it. Now, I want you to know that I was a hippie. I had long hair and a long beard, and it got longer and longer. But he said, I don't know who this person is, but if you go up to this bookstore, you can see his picture. There's cards, 3x5 cards. So I went up to this bookstore up near the university, and lo and behold, there were 2 cards. You've seen these cards. I am the Ancient One, and they're little cards, and the Don't Worry, Be Happy cards. You've seen those cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
These were cards produced by my friend. He wasn't my friend then. My friend Rick Chapman, who's done a lot of things. He also has done a lot of posters, right? You've seen some of his posters and books and what have you. And I saw these 2 cards. They're just 3x5 cards. And I liked the one that said, I am the Ancient One, because it had long hair and a long beard and looked exactly like me. Okay. And then I went back to Pennsylvania, where Philadelphia is. And the next time I saw Mayor Bob, I forgot about him. And there's a long story, which I won't tell. But one night I was staying at my parents' house, living in the bedroom where I grew up, if you could believe that. I didn't know what to do or where to go. I was lost. And I turned the TV on, and on the TV was a movie of Mayor Baba's. You can believe this. This was on a talk show we used to have in those days, named the Alan Douglas Show, and I liked him. And there was a speaker, and the movie was, as I didn't know what it was at that time, but what the movie was Mayor Baba walking after the auto accident in 1956 in India, next to Guru Prasad, walking by himself. He had a kind of a tough, you've seen Baba walk like this. He had a tough gait, couldn't walk too well. But the speaker was saying, now he was in this terrible auto accident and the doctor said he would never walk again. but as you could see, he's walking quite well. And I was utterly curious because then I remembered I had seen Baba's picture in Berkeley 6 months earlier. I thought, oh my God, I knew nothing about him. This is the most I knew. And by the way, I caught the movie in the middle. So the movie ended in a few minutes. And then they went to the host of the show, this man, Alan Douglas, and the guest. And the guest's name was a fellow named Alan Cohen. And Alan Cohen was somebody I knew about because he had been at Harvard with Timothy Leary, who was the big proponent of drugs. And he was in a three-piece suit with short hair. And I wondered, how does he look like this? Why does he look like this? I'm going to meet him and become his friend. So I went out to Berkeley in June of 1969, and I met Alan Cohen, and I did become his friend later. At that time, actually, I lived with him for a couple of years.
You did? That's so cool.
Yeah, we were very good friends.
Oh, that's awesome. He came a couple months ago to talk to the kids.
Yeah, right. And he's a very sweet person. But that's not how I came to Baba. And I came to Baba through a story by a man named Nick Hamilton, who had met Baba in 1966 with his then wife, Ursula, then called Ushi. And he told me how he met Baba. And when he told me of his meeting of Baba, I realized immediately who Baba was. Baba spoke the word of his being God in my heart. And it's a long story, and you could see it on the YouTube. It's very touching. Of course, to me, it's the most important story. But the gist of it was when he said, Baba said, I am God in human form. I realized immediately who he was. And it touched my heart, went directly to my heart, bypassed my mind, and I realized that this is the moment I had been waiting for all eternity. So that was in either late July or early August of 1969. And since that time, I have been following their Baba, sometimes good, sometimes not so good, just like everyone else. But I did have a chance in one of my visits to India to meet Karen Talbot. She wasn't Karen Talbot then. And we met. We did not fall in love then. She was just one of the pilgrims. Eventually we got married in December of 1979. And we have 3 children, one who's 40, one who's 39, one who's 37. We have 3 grandchildren, all whom are Baba kids. And in fact, we were just in Myrtle Beach for 2 weeks early April with all 3 of our grandkids. And they love Baba. And they're very close to Baba. They love Myrtle Beach. I brought my oldest son, Matthew, to India when he was 7. And he had a great time. He really enjoyed India. And he's a staunch Baba guy. And his daughter, Mani Ann, you may or may not know, she's a staunch Baba person. His wife grew up with Baba. Her parents were Baba people. In fact, her dad was one of the people I met in India my first trip. And I have 2 grandchildren by my son, Andrew, Alden, who's going to be 10, and Mara, M-E-R-A, who's going to be 8 this year, so 9 and 7. We just saw them this, they were out swimming this morning, so we saw the swim lessons. So we have mostly a Baba family, a Baba people. And so everybody feels happy about Baba. And we have Baba events at our house too. We just had one 2 nights ago, a big event of Baba people here, which is going to be on YouTube.
So do you have any favorite stories? And I want to pause here and ask, like, Shireen, do you have any questions, or Soham?
We lose
Any
Rihar?
favorite stories of, with the Mandali, who, I mean, you said Padri stood out the most to you, right? What about you, Karen? Any favorites that you guys want to share? Because one of the things we would love to kids to learn more about is also the Mandali, right? And you guys have, so how many years did you visit them? My goodness, quite a few times, right?
Well, they died in the passage of time. I will say that Balcal, we had 4 Mandali come to our house. We had Alaba come to our house. That was quite a story. We had Meru come to our house, and Katie and Balcal Tree came to our house every time he was here. And the last 6 times Balcal Tree was here, he slept in our bed during his stay. So he would take care of us. So we knew the Mandali very well, and we were very fortunate beyond imagination to be close to them. And we have stories about each of the Mandali that are, each of us has our own Mandali stories, including the ones in the West, Kitty and Elizabeth and Darwin and so on and so forth. Karen and I were very fortunate to have many
Can you hear
speakers.
me?
Yeah.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted now.
Okay, all right. So what would you like me to talk about?
Any one of your favorite Mandali stories?
All right, well, our family was very close to Dr. Gohair. And we were so fortunate to know all of the Mandali. And I'll just say, as a result of knowing Dr. Gohair, I'm now and have been on the board of Meher Fund, which supports Meher Free Dispensary. She was Meher Baba's physician. And then after Baba dropped the body, she continued, they set up for her, Arnavas helped to set up for her clinic at Merazad. And she started seeing villagers, I think, in one of the bedrooms there, one of someone's room. And then it got too crowded, and the people like the Westerners were coming, and they were concerned about the health of the Westerners, and they didn't want the Westerners on the same porch as the villagers who were coming with illnesses. So they set up a special little clinic at Merazad, which is now a resting place when you get off of the buses at Merazad. And then subsequent to that, about a mile or so from Merazad proper, there's a new clinic. So that's really a very nice thing very beautiful photograph, very beautiful photograph. Of course, Mera, we were very fortunate in my time to be able to have tea with Mera. Women would be invited by Casey, so you didn't get to have tea every time, but they tried to invite women who were staying, who hadn't had the opportunity. And so when we would have tea with Mera, she would go up to the picture of Baba in the dining room at Merazad and talk about Baba and how she combed his hair and the foods that they fed him. And it was always very lovely. And we were very fortunate to be able to have tea with Mera. And as Alan said, our oldest son, when he was 7, Kitty Davy was encouraging all the parents who had 7-year-olds that year, 1988, to take them to India for Mera's birthday celebration. And it turned out to be her very last birthday celebration. It was a fire that year, I think. Yeah, Alan, you were there. And then our son, who is 7, was able to have tea with Mera. Because at that time, children, well, men couldn't go for tea, children could. And I have this postcard, it's not here, but he sent her a postcard and he thanked her for the cake. I don't think he cared for the tea, but he liked the cake, and he signed it, Matt Talbot, a lucky Baba lover. So we've always held on to that. And let's see, the other women, Mandali, Meru. When Mera and Mani and Arnavas, Katie and Dr. Gohair were around, Meru was very quiet. She would always do stitching, sewing for the women and other things. After that, she was younger. She was Mira's niece, actually. And after they passed, then she began to talk. She would tell stories of being on the New Life. The 4 New Life women were Mira, Mani, Dr. Goher, and Meru. And a very special person, a very special woman, Mandali member, was Mani, Baba's sister. And she'd be at Mirazad when we would come on the weekends. But during the weekdays, she would be at the trust office. She was chairperson of the trust. She loved children. So I don't know if any of your children, no, I don't think age-wise, would have met her. But when our children went, she had a cabinet. And inside the cabinet were all sorts of wind-up toys, dolls, and things for the children to play with. And she would take them out, and then she would give the children vitamins to eat. And those vitamins were M&Ms. So the children were always so excited to see Mani because she not only gave them M&Ms, but there were toys. And so she really went out of her way to make us feel welcome, but also all ages, anyone that went there. She really went out of her way, as all the Mandali did. Arnavas was wonderful. She was like a psychologist, guidance counselor for all the women who would go and tell their concerns. Katie was a cook. She loved to cook for everyone. She was Goher's sister. And as Alan mentioned, we would bring our lunches because we didn't have a pilgrim center. There was no NPR. So wherever we stayed, we would have tiffins. Oh, there's a lovely picture. She always wore her pearls. She always looked so beautiful when we came. So we would have tiffins of lunch, and then the women Mandali would send out bakri, millet, for us. So we got to sample some of these different foods that they would bring out for us to share. And one thing, Mera was a wonderful gardener. And if you've been to Mirazad, you've seen the garden there that Casey maintains to this day. But my memory is Mera would take us on a tour and point out the trees, the plants, their names, and peanut. There was always a peanut plant that was in a pot, and she would show us how the peanuts grew and give us peanuts. So those are a few of the stories of the women Mandali. And of course, then people just flooded into Mandali Hall to hear Erich tell stories. Bauji, when we first started coming, was pretty quiet. He would write in his room. He certainly became very talkative later on, especially when he would visit the West. But at that time, he was fairly quiet. Alaba was there. Balnatu was there. Balnatu would let so many Westerners come and help him with all of his books. Am I forgetting anyone? I think for our time, those are the ones that were basically there. Any questions from anyone, or do you want to hear anything else?
So Alaba was one of the boys, right? Who was in the school?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
The pre-mushroom boy, right?
That's
was
correct. Mm-hmm. And then I guess he got taken out by his family. But then he came back to Baba and stayed. And then I think he told us that after Baba dropped the body, his sister wanted him to get married. But he said, no. And he ended up being a resident Mandali at Mirazad.
And he's from Iran, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Persia.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have couple
Very
more-
enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Lots of enthusiasm.
I have a couple Mara stories, if I could.
Yeah, please.
Now, my first trip in 1973, which I mentioned, in those days, the rules weren't quite as fixed. So Mara gave me a tour of Baba's bedroom by myself for 1 hour. And I didn't know a whole lot, but I knew this much. The men were not allowed to touch Mara. That was first rule, we learned that. But her sensitivity towards Baba was 100%. So I took the theory that if she laughed, I would laugh. And if she cried, I would cry. And that was kind of my MO for the rest of my career at Mara. And then after she spent an hour with me in the bedroom, going through each thing. Have you all been in the bedroom, Baba's bedroom at Marazad? Okay. Now it's crowded. You really can't hang out there.
Yeah, I think the kids were quite young, but they've been.
Okay. Well, you can see pictures. So then she took me outside and showed me the tree where Baba's image was, which was there. And then, unlike most men, I ended up having tea with Mara. And they stopped that in 1974 or 5, as best we could tell. So if you ever run into a guy who said he had tea with Mara, he's an old man like I am. I'm 75. Because anybody under would not have had it. Yeah, there's the bedroom. And she went through each of these things, particularly on the, on the credenzas, and, you could see these little shelves and everything. She went through everything, each piece and parcel. It's quite interesting. And there you go. Now in 1978, I went to India and I was asked to deliver a painting for Mara. It was a big painting and it was rolled up on the, what do you call those? Where the sides, the wooden sides, what's that called?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Shireen, you know what that's called? The framing, the wooden framing around a painting?
No.
Okay. Well, you've seen a painting and it's inside wood. Anyway, they wrap up the painting so you could carry it. Otherwise, I couldn't carry it. This is a very big painting. And it was a picture of Baba on a white horse. It was painted by this woman whose nickname was 3B, who had a monthly correspondence with Mara under Baba's order. So I flew to Delhi first and stayed there and got really sick. And then I went to Kashmir and got better. And then I flew. And eventually, on June 15th, 1978, it's the first day that pilgrims were allowed at Marazad or Mehrabad. I arrived at Marazad in a taxi from Aurangabad with this painting, and they were all waiting for me because they knew I was coming. And Dr. Goer came over. She couldn't walk very well, so she rode a little bicycle. It was very cute. And we walked this painting over to the porch where Mara was, at Baba's house. And she was on the veranda. And I gave the painting to Dr. Goer, and she gave it to Mara. And they unfolded it, and they rolled it out, and then they framed it. And Mara was pleased with me that day. And I want to say this, if Mara was pleased with you, Baba was pleased with you. I was the only person there the entire day. I spent the entire day by myself with the men and women mandali. I ate with the men, spent most of the day with the women. They asked me to tell inch by inch the journey that there was a lot of adventure too in getting there, and quite dramatic in part.
Do you have some time to share that story, Alan? We have about 20 minutes.
Well, that story, okay. Okay, I flew on Japan Airlines. Okay, and now Japan Airlines goes to this, it used to go to Tokyo, but it went to this new airport called Narita. It had just opened. And there had been a big war between the farmers and the government about this airport. And they had a hotel where everybody stayed. There was only about 5 people. We were one of the first groups of people to stay there. And when we went to the airport, listen to this. We were on a bulletproof bus. There's about 5 passengers with 2 armed guards with big rifles, machine guns, because they were afraid that we would be attacked by the farmers. There's been a lot of violence. And we got to the airport. It was this humongous airport, the Tokyo airport, Narita airport. There's now, if you went there, there'd be thousands of people in there. But we were the only people in there, 5 people. And I had my luggage, a backpack, and the painting rolled up. And the one lady greeted us, the short Japanese lady in a kimono with those sticks that they put in their hair. And she spoke no English, and I spoke no Japanese. And I thought there'd be a charge for the painting, you know, a custom charge. She just took it and all my luggage. So I flew to New Delhi. And when I got to New Delhi, at 2 a.m., it was 44 degrees centigrade, which is 114 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was not used to that. The next morning, I was staying with these 2 people I didn't even know, called Mokam and Kasum Singh. They were head of the Delhi group. They had met Baba many times. Maybe you've heard of them, I don't know. Wonderful people. Mokam has passed away now. Kasum is alive as far as I know. And we went out to get me tickets to go to Kashmir. I'd been in Kashmir because it's cooler. And 114 degrees would fry my brain. But unfortunately, you ready for this? They were having a strike. And so they turned the electricity off in half the city in New Delhi, like a heat stroke. And Kasum, I was delirious. And she had to take me to her house and call the doctor. And I didn't know whether I was going to live or not, honest to God. But in any event, I did live, obviously, to tell this.
Yeah.
And the next day, when I got better, because the doctor was able to save me, her husband, Mokam, they were very wealthy. Mokam's father, are you ready for this? Had built Parliament building. You ever seen the Parliament in New Delhi? His father built it. And Kusum's parents had a whole state. They were
they, is that the lady who's royalty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a princess, but they gave it up for Baba. And so Mokam was best friends with the man who ran Indian Airlines. That's the internal airlines. And he got me to go to Kashmir, and I was okay. But in any event, that's the worst part of it. So I nearly died on the way there, but I did please Mara. There's more to it than that, but I don't want to overdo it. I did please Mara, and I tell you that if you please Mara, you please Baba. So at least once in my life, I could say in honesty, in humility, and in honesty, I did please. There they are. Yeah, wonderful people. And they would occasionally they would come to our house because Mokam had a brother who lives about an hour from here. So they'd been to our house on occasion, and they were dear friends. And they took us up to their family house in Dehradun, where they met Baba. You know Nashawan? Mm-hmm. You people know Nashawan? Well, Nashawan is from Dehradun. And there they are, they're singing. She's a very good singer. And so we met Nashawan's parents in Dehradun, and we stayed with down the street from, and Baba stayed during the new life in Dehradun for quite a while, almost a year. So we went around and saw all the places. Do you know Amrit? Have you met Amrit and Dara? Well, we met Amrit's parents at her house, and we almost got stuck out there in the mud. The car got stuck in the mud trying to get back, and they closed the gate. We almost got stuck behind the gate. And Kusum's mom, who's a Rani, which is a queen, and she was regal. She's a little frightening, actually. She gave you that look. That's Amrit Dara. But Amrit, but the mom, Kusum's mom, was very powerful. And we couldn't ask her to push the car. So Karen and I were pushing the car, and Kusum was pushing, it was stuck in the mud. And we finally got it dislodged, and we just made it out of this gated area right before they closed the gate. Otherwise, we would have spent overnight. I don't know where we would have stayed, sleeping in the car, I guess, or in the mud. But anyway, we spent about a week in Dehradun and met all the Baba people up there, and had the great opportunity to meet all these wonderful Baba people who've been with Baba for decades and decades. We have wonderful pictures.
Alan, I want to tell one quick story, or you can tell it about, we met Amrit's father, Kumar, and he had a huge bag of candy wrappers. When they would have darshan at their farm, and so many would come, and Baba would throw out prasad to the people that were there.
Not at their farm, all over India.
They would fall on the ground, and he would pick them up because they had been touched by Baba. Big bags, big bags. And he gave us to take back with us some of the candy wrappers, which we have today.
Oh, that is so cool.
What's interesting is the Indians, who were not good in waste baskets, would take the candy and throw the wrapper on the ground. Not like Indians in America, they would put that in the trash. But in those days, it was, and Kumar realized, wait a minute, these wrappers have been touched by Baba. They've been blessed by his touch. So he was not a fool. His story is remarkable, but he was not a fool, and he realized that he should pick up these wrappers. So he had these bags that were like 3 feet high of candy wrappers, which weighed him about probably less than a pound. You know, candy wrappers don't weigh anything. It was really humorous. You could pick them up and throw them up in the air. They didn't weigh anything. And he had 2 or 3 of these bags of this thing. Must have 1,000 wrappers, just endless wrappers. So it was very sweet, and gave us these candy wrappers that Baba touched. Yes. Let's see, who else do you want to hear? Any stories about any of the Mandali that you would like to hear?
Yeah, whatever you'd like to share with us, we're happy to hear.
I was very fortunate. We were talking, Karen was mentioning Arnavas, Dada Chanji. Now her uncle was a man named Framrose Dada Chanji, and he got that shortened to Chanji, and he was Baba's first secretary till he died in Kashmir in 1944. We actually said, I think he wanted to die, and he did. But anyway, and Arnavas would always call me over and talk to me for sometimes a couple hours a day. I didn't have any personal problems that I knew about, but yeah, there's Chanji, and there's Gustaji, and I'm not sure who that man is, to be honest with you. Gustaji, I'd like to tell a story if I could. He was, Baba put it, I just changed the subject, I'm sorry. He had been with not only Baba, but with Pasni Maharaj and Sai Baba. This was his last incarnation, last lifetime. And Gustaji always was with Baba. And Baba had him on silence, so he's always silent. And he always was picking up scraps of paper and things like that. Well, Baba went to Bombay. It was now Mumbai, but in those days it was Bombay. And for some reason, Gustaji stayed behind at Merazad. And people were wondering, he was always with Baba. Why was Gustaji kept back? And I think it might have been the last time, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, that Baba was ever in Bombay. But in any event, while Baba was there staying in Bombay, the word came that Gustaji had died. Gustaji had passed. And Baba started crying. And he said, Baba said, not only was he my disciple, but he was my friend. So, such a soul, be the friend of God himself, like that. Now, we never met him because this is like 1957 or 8 or something like that. some of the Mandali passed away before we had a chance to meet them. But we had, Karen and I and others were very blessed to be in India and spend, weeks and weeks and months at a time. Karen was fortunate that in the fall of 1978, Mani asked her to come and type for the Mandali, and she stayed in India and typed at the trust compound. for the
3
Mandali.
months.
3 months. And she typed for Ron O'Galey, who's Baba's artist, particularly, and Balna too, who wrote many, many books, as you all know. Very meticulous. It's really important. Mandali always emphasized to us to pay attention, to focus on the details, to study hard. I know all you kids are studying hard. And they would always encourage us to go back to school and to do well in school, because that would please Baba. So I was very fortunate, but Kitty Davy did encourage Karen to go back to school and got her master's degree. And many of the people, as I mentioned earlier, didn't seem to have a focus in life. They were in their 20s. They had quit school or not even started school. And the Mandali, both the Eastern Mandali and the Western Mandali, always encouraged people now our age, but then we were young, to study hard. So I'm counting on you 3 young people to study hard and do real well, and that would please Bob, I'm sure 100%. Karen and I have been the most fortunate people, I would say. In our time, we've had many guests. There's Goer Mobed, one of my dearest friends. And we have had, over the course of our life together, and even before I was married to Karen, about 10,000 people at our house as guests visiting. We've had 4 Mandalis, they say, and many close ones come to our house and tell their stories. We had an event here Friday night where Michael LePage, who's from Australia, had a big event. We read the poem from Stay With God that Francis Bravazan had written on Baba's Mandali, and it's on YouTube. And we were very fortunate. We've been blessed beyond measure. I don't think there's even words to describe how fortunate we are. We're hoping to get Goer and her husband Danny out here now that COVID has ended. And she's promised she'll come. There's Danny. They've promised they'll come when the, what's the word? When they're ready. And I think this fall could be the ripe time for them to visit. They've never been to California. And she met Baba and she was named by Baba. Her name is Goer, named after Dr. Goer, the only one. The only one. So we're very fortunate to be good friends with her. And her husband, Danny, who we saw in November at Myrtle Beach. But I would say to you, if you take Baba's name and love him, my grandson Alden, when he was 4, said, why do people have to go to India? Baba's everywhere. He's in our hearts, which is true. Although it is nice to go to India. I've been to India probably over a year of my life, all in all, over 22 times, I think. And we're hoping to go back maybe in December. But if you hold Baba in your heart, remember him like you did earlier with the beautiful prayers, and you have a beautiful parents. I know that, I could see that. You're so fortunate. You'll live a life that's really, really, really blessed. You won't believe how great your life will be. That is.
Well, thank you, Alan and Karen. We're really, really happy to have you here. Soham and Shireen, I don't know what happened to Meher. I don't know if he got kicked out accidentally, but do you guys have anything to say? Would you like to say a few parting words? Because I know Effort and Grace is going to be starting soon.
Thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
think-
coming. I really enjoyed the stories. They were all really interesting.
Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you.
And Alan, I think the last time you saw him, he was much younger and looked very different.
Well, he's twice as handsome and twice as smart today.
I know. Thank you.
That I know. And they'll do great. These are wonderful young people. So, all
Go ahead.
of them.
Go ahead, Shireen, you were saying something, sorry.
Yeah, same. Like, thank you for sharing your story. I loved it. Yeah, hope you come back to the Sahavas. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be my honor.
Yeah.
If your mom invited us, we would come back. You only got the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
You guys are welcome to come whenever you want. We are happy to have, Goher actually is going to be coming May 15th. So we're excited to have her. And, you know, Rosalie, Wendy, anyone, like, you know, we would love to have you guys come and talk to the kids, because I feel like there's so much out there, the information that none of us really know about. So, and your experiences and stuff. So it would be wonderful. So thank you so much, both of you, for making it today.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us. It was really, really a great
Good
honor.
to see you, Alan. Sorry,
Hi, Goer.
You're driving.
we're coming back from Miami. We had to go. My daughter lost her father-in-law last week, so we were just at the celebration for his, for his life. So we were just
Right.
coming. But I wanted to catch Jeff because he's just out of the hospital with surgery and stuff. So wanted to say hi to him too. So brought my, but it's so noisy in this car of his. It's a convertible, so I can barely hear you guys.
Wait, who was in the hospital?
My daughter, oldest in Miami, lost her father last week, Alan, on Wednesday. So the family had like a celebration for his life, you know. They had a celebration of his life. So we went to attend that, and we're just on our way home.
They love him to him.
Yeah. Anyway, good to see you. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the 15th, Shilpa.
I know, I'm excited to have you over, and you know, happy to see everyone. How's Jeff doing? Jeff, I thought I saw you and then you disappeared. Hey Jeff, how are you doing? He's here.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff had surgery last Friday.
Jeff Wolverton?
Jeff Wolverton, yes.
Yep.
He had hernia surgery.
Oh, hernia.
Universal surgery, because everyone in the world knows.
Yes.
Yeah, he's carrying a large ego. That's where I'm out.
He told us himself, yeah.
Yeah, I told him.
I wanted to talk about, you know, they mentioned Shanti dying in Kashmir. Well, there is a beautiful book. It's by Beloved's Comic Book Club, and it's one of my favorite books. And in it, one of the things Baba says about Kashmir, there is no place in the world as ideal as these surrounding in Kashmir. And then, of course, he said Chanji would die there, and he did. And it shows him in the hospital bed, and Baba saying goodbye. It's a beautiful book. It's like someone did watercolors. It's fabulous.
You know, actually, Rosalie, I'm glad you brought that up, because I still have a whole bunch of them. I used to give it out to the kids here. So if anybody wants it, I still have a whole bunch.
It's precious.
It really is.
It's like a work of love. Yeah.
Yep,
I don't know if they did another one, but they really should.
I thought they were supposed to come out with the second one, but
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all the different times Baba was in Kashmir, and where he pointed out where he was buried up on the hill in Hardvan, near Hardvan. It's and he did all that must work in Kashmir. Anyway, it's
Okay.
I am leaving.
a gem.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Karen. Jai Baba.
Baba, thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Jeff. Be well.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Alan,
Welcome
I
back.
just got here. Where are you going?
I just gave an hour and a half. I got a basketball game I have to attend to.
Oh,
Okay.
they're behind too.
I know. And I hope.
Ellen, you didn't tell us you like basketball. My son plays quite a bit of it.
Well, I got my Golden State Warriors on TV right now. They're losing, as Jeff said.
Uh-oh.
And I hold him responsible for this situation.
No, it's going to change. It's going to change.
I hear that basket cases really like basketball.
Yeah.
Now, Martha, how you feeling?
So, Goer, are you in a car or something?
Yes, I'm in the car, Jeff. We're coming back from Miami. Here's Cammy.
Oh, hey.